Tonight on the HPT from the Ameristar Casino in East Chicago, we kick off our 12th season with a prize pool of almost $1 million. Which one of our talented Final Nine players will take down the title, the bracelet, and the cash? It's all coming up next, right here on the HPT.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HPT. I'm James Larson, joined by our analyst, Mr. Kenneth James. This week, we are on the road here at the Ameristar Casino Hotel, East Chicago. Almost $1 million in the prize pool. Over 670 players, 9 remain, couple of amateurs, couple of pros. But Kenna, how do you really define a professional poker player?
If they're proficient at what they do, James. I mean, a professional golfer, for example, takes thousands of shots every day. Why? So they can react to the pressure and execute the shot. It's going to be interesting to see if these amateurs can respond to the pressure that the pros put on.
Speaking of pressure, up top, over $211,000. That's a whole lot of pressure right there.
Absolutely. And when you're playing for the cash, it goes to the one who deserves it and reacts to the pressure the best.
With no further ado, let's go ahead and meet the players and take a look at the prize pool.
Wow, over $200,000 for first place, on down to ninth, just under $20K.
Andrew Mills is your chip leader with over 6 million chips. That's over 2 million more than HPT veteran and two-time champion Craig Casino. And the amateur, Ryan, he's very, very short with just 95,000 chips.
He's going to need a lot of help, James, very fast, if he wants to be at this final table for more than a quick hello.
Lines are 30,000, 60,000 with a 10K ante. First hand of the night here on the HPT as we broadcast from the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. Action is folded around to the legend, Craig Casino. He's going to get out of the way, as does Chris. Folded around now to the one seat of Ronnie. He looks down at 9-8.
And here's our short stack.
He's short, and he's on the button. He looks down at 10-8.
And it's folded all the way to him on the button, and with the short stack, this is standard for him to move all in, even with 10-8 here.
Now over to Andrew Mills, 23-year-old poker dealer from Florida. He looks down at ace-7. He's going to make the call here in the small blind. Now action over to Steve Jewell. We have two Steves at the final table. This Steve with Jack-9 is going to make the call. What's going through Ryan's head? Now he's got to be two players to hang on to his tournament life.
Yes, but he is getting extra value because now he's getting 2-to-1 on his money, and he really needs to grow his chip stack, so he's looking to get lucky here.
So we go to the flop, and it's King, Queen, 7, couple of clubs. No help for Ryan.
As you can say, getting lucky in poker means a little different than what it means in life.
Yeah, it certainly does. Turn card now, Queen of Spades, and you see the other two players in the side pot just checking this down. That's a common play.
Now, Ryan is going to need a 10 or 8, or he's going to be gone before we can learn how to pronounce his last name.
River card is the Jack of clubs. Oof. Andrew and Steve going to check. And Steve's going to win the hand, and that is going to do it for Ryan. He's going to be eliminated, going out in 9th place with $19,253. Can you say his last name?
Hohenstein,
I think. He played great, made it to this final table. Unfortunately, he's out after one hand, and if we keep this momentum up, this is going to be a 20-minute show tonight, Kenna.
I don't think so, James. We got a lot of chips in play here and a lot of talent sitting at this table. I'm excited to see how this all plays out.
It's James Larson and Kenneth James broadcasting from the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. Action folded over to Craig Casino wearing his nice brown jacket tonight. Never seen him wear the brown jacket. He's going to go ahead and raise it up with 5-4. Why not?
You know, we laugh, but image is important because it communicates to your opponents and how they respond to you.
Folded around to Andrew. He looks like he's going to raise it up. What's he got? Ace-Queen, Ace-King? No, he's got 5-4.
So we have two multi-way hands here. And back to image for a moment. So because he's wearing the jacket, players might think he's on the conservative side, but here he is opening up with 5-4 suited, so he's leveraging that image, and that's a good thing to do.
Action over to Steve Jewell from Dyersville, Iowa. Look at that stare. Boy, he's staring them both down like a prize fighter.
Well, he's got a marginal hand here facing a raise and a call, and I like that he's given consideration to this and gets himself out of what might be a sticky situation.
And Craig is going to make the call. He's not conservative. We've seen Craig here on the HPT. He likes to get involved in a lot of hands, and I like it. The flop, Jack, 9-8, couple of spades.
Wow, now who's going to win this? This is an interesting hand. The person who takes initiative or the person in position?
Craig's going to check, as does Andrew.
Wow, I would have liked a bet from Andrew here to leverage his position.
Maybe a bet from somebody here. You would have liked a bet from either one of these players.
Right.
4 of spades hits the turn. Neither player has a spade in their hand.
Winning these marginal situations is important if you want to win the tournament.
So the bet now, 300,000 chips. Craig's going to make the call. They both pair their 4.
That's a wide open call from Craig.
And now the 4th spade comes on board, the deuce of spades.
I expect this to go check, check, because the board is just too dangerous to really fire again here. Oh, look at this.
While Craig checks.
Is he making a value bet? Is he bluffing here, or is he betting on margin?
675,000 is the bet. Pot of over 2 million chips.
Fold.
Wow!
Andrew's going to win that hand, and we will continue the action right here from the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. You're watching the HPT.
Welcome back to the HPT main event final table, coming to you this week from Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. We are down to 8 players at our final table, so let's get straight into the action.
Thanks so much, Tatiana. James Larson and Kenny James broadcasting here from the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago.
Excited to be here with you, James, as Chris looks down at ace-10. He's in a tough spot here because he's 3rd in chips and a marginal hand. He's out of position. But that's the difference between being 3rd in chips and having 7 million in chips. You got to tighten up your play a little bit. I like it.
Andrew with King 5 is going to raise it up to 125,000.
He's here to play, to leverage his position.
Action over to Steve Jewell now with the King Queen of Diamonds. Is that a hand you like to play, the King Queen?
I do, especially to a button raise. I like 3-betting here, taking charge of the hand. Let's see if he does it or if he just flats and plays for marginal value.
Steve's going to make the call. The other Steve gets out of the way.
So he decides to take the passive conservative route and see a flop.
Jim Casement gets out of the way in the small. And look at this.
Wow.
Big blind special here for Craig Casino. Pocket 10s.
Now this is exciting. Here, I think out of position, you want to take charge of this hand, re-raise, and not just let these guys see a flop. But again, he takes the passive line and not leverage his hand position.
The flop is Jack, Trey, Deuce. Action on Craig. Craig's going to check. Craig's on a little bit of a heater. He just came off a victory at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Beautiful, beautiful casino. Beautiful state. I'm from Michigan, actually.
So the bet now by Andrew, 200,000.
Again, leveraging his chip position and his table position and putting the pressure on these 2 guys who just flatted out of position.
And now Steve's going to raise to 500,000.
Yes, he's fighting back.
Now these pocket 10s of Craig they're kind of shriveling a little bit.
Like getting into a cold pool.
And that's a fold by the legend Craig Casino. Now action to Andrew. It's going to be tough for him to make this call.
Absolutely. This is a great play by Steve.
And Andrew's going to fold. Steve's going to take down the pot.
And you can see the player with the initiative and the gumption sometimes drags home the pot.
Steve, with just $375 invested in this main event, got in through our qualifier system. And folks, you can do the same thing. Check out our schedule at hptpoker.com. Find an event that will work for you, and who knows, maybe you'll be playing for the life-changing cash. Action is folded around to Ronnie here in the 1 seat. Looks down at Ace-Jack. Ronnie's going to go ahead and raise it up to 130,000. Andrew gets out of the way. Now over to Steve.
A nice standard raise. Again, Steve with ace-10 here. Another
picking up
marginal
big
spot.
cards.
Yeah. Now, he folded the first time, but now he's just against a single raiser rather than a raiser and a caller. So this might draw him into the pot and into a trap, a very tough spot.
Steve's going to make the call. Steve Karp gets out of the way. Haven't seen him play a hand yet here at this final table. Now action over to Jim Casement.
The tempting suited connectors and in position.
And Jimmy's going to make the call with the 7-6. 10-4, a good buddy for Craig Casino in the BB.
Not much of a decision here. Probably a little posturing going on. Wow.
This is Craig Casino, my friend. This is Craig the Legend Casino. He's the all-time money leader here on the HPT, and he just won the HPT Soaring Eagle event for over $150,000. So
Wow.
look at that flop. 5-4 tray, couple of clubs.
Jim has flopped the Big Mac, the nuts.
And he's going to check it over to Craig Casino, who paired his 4. Now Ronnie reaching for chips here. All he's got ace high with his wheel draw, and he's reaching for chips, and he's going to make a bet.
It's going to take initiative. You know, taking initiative, meaning, you know, you're the first in the pot and you're betting into a 4- and 5-way pot with other players. Wow, that's a very optimistic thing to do.
Steve gets out of the way. Action over to Jim. Now, what do you want to see Jim here do? Just flat this?
I like flatting, which means just calling the bet, inducing other players to call you so you can maximize the value of your opportunity.
Now, there are 2 clubs out there, so Jim decides to raise it up. He's going to go up to $505,000.
I don't see Rainey calling here, and I think even though Jim has flopped a great hand, he doesn't maximize value here. Let's see if that comes back to haunt him later on.
Jim Casement, 53 years old, over $100,000 in lifetime earnings. He, too, is into this event for just $375. Talk about that ROI.
Yeah, that's risk reward. That's why we play the game. You can get in this game for a little and come out winning a lot.
Action continues here from the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. Look at this. Pocket Queens, the ladies for Steve Jewell.
And these are big money makers or big losers. You can get sucked out on easily with these hands.
He's going to raise it up to $130,000.
And I like that.
Steve Karp gets out of the way. Now over to Casement. He's going to fold. Now we go to Craig Casino. And Craig's going to make the call here with a blackjack hand, the 6-5 of hearts.
Gamble up. We're in a casino. Let's gamble.
Like, Craig really loves playing those suited connectors. Chris is going to make the call on the button with his ace-7.
So Chris playing his position.
Jorge gets out of the way. So 3 players. Ace-7, 6-5 going up against the pocket queens of Steve. Steve currently in the lead. And we go to the flop. And the flop is 3-4-5.
Wow. How? Okay, now this is interesting. Craig has got a power draw, top pair, and an open-ended straight.
Maybe that's why he plays those suited connectors all the time. Steve's going to bet $275,000. Now, Craig has a decision to make.
Tough decision whether to flat or raise here. I like flatting in this spot.
Craig's going to go ahead and raise it up to $600,000. And Chris is going to fold his hand.
I'm not the gambler that Craig is. He likes putting pressure on his opponents, and that's going to put Steve, I thought, in a tough spot, but boom!
Wow, all in. And look at that look on Craig's face, kind of a pained expression. He's thinking, well, does Steve have an overpair? A set? The straight?
Well, Craig announces fold,
and he's going to fold. The winner is going to be Steve Jewell, and when we come back, we'll see if he can continue his quest to be our next HPT champion. We'll be back after these messages.
Welcome back to the HPT. I'm James Larson with Kenna James. 8 players remain at this final table. And Kenna, a few players we haven't heard from yet tonight.
Well, they really haven't gotten the cards, James, so they got to make something happen. They got to get connected, and regardless of the cards, it's how they play them that matters. They got to get in there and make something happen.
A whole lot of cash on the line. Let's get back to the action.
All right, Kenna, blinds are now $40,000, $80,000 with a $10K ante. I need to remind everybody, up top, almost $212,000 will be awarding here at this final table.
To keep that in perspective, that's more than the average salary of an owner of a McDonald's. I looked that up.
It's unbelievable. It's life-changing money. All right, action folded around a casement. He's going to get out of the way. Now over to Craig Casino. Looks down at King Queen.
I love his name. Casino in the casino, gambling it up.
He's kind of like James Bond, this guy, Craig Casino, and he is our all-time money leader here on the HPT, doing it up again. Folded around now to the 9 seat of Jorge. Haven't seen Jorge play. I don't think I've seen him play a hand yet tonight.
Well, sometimes you're limited to the cards that you're dealt, and you keep finding marginal situations and avoiding them, and that shows patience.
Not to mention moving up that pay ladder. That's so important. This 9 seat and the 1 seat both getting out of the way.
It's a good point, James. Good point. Sometimes you want to let other players knock each other out.
Andrew's going to defend in the big blind with Jack 10. The flop is 6-5 deuce, couple of diamonds.
All right. Nobody has flopped anything here, so usually the person with initiative and position will win this pot with a bet.
Andrew's going to check. Craig loves putting chips in the middle.
He does.
Absolutely loves it. Loves to gamble up. He's going to bet $230,000.
And that should do it, and it does.
Andrew's going to fold. And we'll see if Craig Casino can win his third HPT title. He won his first title back in 2011. I'll never forget it. He was so happy. I'd be happy, too. He won almost $294,000 in Blackhawk, Colorado at the Golden Gates Casino.
Winner of the pot. Yeah, it must be. I mean, it don't matter.
Players loosening up a little bit, Kenna. That's good. You know, it's a little nerve-wracking. We got the cameras, the lights, the commentators.
The money. I mean,
money, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure out there, and how you handle the pressure, you know, really goes a long way to determining who is going to win this event.
Folded around to the one seat now of Ronnie. Looks down at a raggy 6 deuce. He gets out of the way. Now over to Andrew, who's been very active at tonight's final table. He's in the small blind. He's going to raise it up to $200,000, but he's got the chips to do that.
He does, again, taking initiative. Let's see if it pays off as Steve looks down at 10-8. We call that a single gapper because there's one card in between the 10 and an 8. That's the gap. And like gapped teeth, they don't work as well as when they're connected.
Steve is going to defend here, the big blind, and he's going to make the call.
You know, you get that piece of apple in there, and it just, those berry seeds, same thing in poker.
Boy, look at that stare. That stare by Steve. The flop, 10-7-4, couple of hearts.
And now Andrew with the 8 deuce. Really drawing bad here. Almost dead. Drawing only to a chop. He's going to take initiative, it looks like, and try to win this pot with a bluff.
Yeah, we saw a couple of deuces have already been folded. So, yeah, he's really drawing to a chop here with runner straight cards. But he's going to bet $230,000. That's all that matters.
Well, yeah, in his mind, he's not drawing. In his mind, he's playing for the pot.
They don't have whole cards, the whole cams. We can see the whole cards
Right.
on the whole cams. It's a whole lot easier.
Easier for us than them on the table. They're fighting their way.
Steve's going to make the call. Speaking of those running cards, there's the 6 of diamonds.
Will Andrew shut down, or will he continue his line of aggression and try to make a play for this pot?
But now in his mind, it's kind of a semi-bluff because he could hit a 9 and make a straight. He doesn't know that that's a chop. He's going to bet $450,000.
It's a good point, James.
See what Steve decides to do after he stares down his opponent. Boy, he's from Dyersville, Iowa. I call it the Dyersville death stare.
I like his play. I really do. Don't do the pushing when the donkey's a-pulling.
Let's go to that river card. And the river card is the meaningless 4 of spades. Now, it's hard to do it once. It's harder to do it twice. But to bluff one more time.
The third bullet. The third bullet in the chamber.
A lot of guys give up here. A lot of guys give up right here. Andrew's not giving up. He's going to bet $800,000.
He's hoping that Steve is on a flush draw and folds his hand. It's not going to happen. Steve calls quickly.
And look at this. Andrew's just going to muck his hand. Steve's going to win this pot of almost $3.5 million. And I guess the question here, Ken, is, does he have to show his hand?
Well, the rule is the bettor has to show, or he can muck and give up his interest in the pot, and that's what he does here.
Let's be honest, Kenna. This is just one of those decisions, you know, normally some players just give up. You know, sometimes you just show the winning hand. This was a deal where a player called him out and said, hey, I want to see what you had.
Yeah, and it is. It's a tough spot because players want to see what the other players are playing, but he has a right to give up his interest in the pot and fold his hand, and that's what happened.
Action folded around to Craig Casino. Looks down at King 10.
I expect him to gamble it up here.
Well, it's a king and a 10. We saw what he did with a 6 and a 5.
This is known as Broadway, 2 cards above a 10.
He's going to raise to $180,000. Chris gets out of the way, as does Jorge in the 9 seat. Now over to Ronnie in the 1 seat. Looks down at 8-6. He's going to fold, as does the small blind of Andrew. Now over to the big blind of Steve Jewell, 43 years old, from Dyersville, Iowa. Just $7,200 in lifetime earnings. He looks down at, once again, the ace-10.
This seems to be his nemesis hand. Nemesis meaning it's a marginal hand. We see, because we can see the cards, that he's got his opponent dominated and should win this pot.
Craig kind of gave him a little stare back. I like that. The flop is 6-5-4, couple of hearts.
So over to Craig. Check.
Both players checking that flop. Go to the turn card. Now it's the Jack of Spades.
Who's going to take initiative in this pot? Who's going to fight for it?
Steve's going to check. So now Craig reaching for chips, and he's going to go ahead and bet $225,000.
Betting his position here, and this is smart. When your opponent continues to show weakness and continue to check to you, leverage that position. Use it to your advantage. If you don't, it's useless. Craig does it wisely and takes home the pot.
Gonna take down the pot.
This aggressive style of his won this pot.
And we asked him about his style of play, and here's what he had to say.
You know, I am, I guess, known as an aggressive player. That's what people are telling me, and I know I play that way. But, you know, in poker, if you can't figure out in which situations to win pots when you don't have a hand, you've really got no chance in the game. I mean, if you're the guy that's going to sit there thinking you're just going to get the best cards all day long, that's not going to happen.
Welcome back to the beautiful Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago.
And looking at the chip count, Steve up on top with just under $5 million in chips, followed closely behind by Andrew Mills and Chris Bradshaw, $3.5 million. And bringing up the bottom is Steve Karp, under 10 big blinds with $685,000.
Great to be back here at the Ameristar. 671 total entries. This is the largest HPT main event ever outside the state of Colorado. I want to thank all the players for showing up, and of course, the great staff here at the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago accommodating all these players. Action now folded around to Jim Casement. He's going to get out of the way, as does Craig Casino. Now over to Chris. He's got a real hand, the ace jack of diamonds.
Absolutely. Now this is traditionally coming in. Standard play would be to raise here, and he does just that.
Chris, just 29 years old, from Jackson, Mississippi. Jorge gets out of the way. Now Ronnie in the one seat looks down at one ace and then two aces, two black aces.
Bullets.
And now an all-in.
Wow.
All-in, a three-bet shove here by Ronnie.
Is it too much? Should he have just three? But Chris makes an auto call here. It looks like with ace jack, he's not going to like what he sees with only a 14% chance to win, James.
So Ronnie here, good shape to double up with his pocket aces. You see the percentages there.
Yes, Chris is going to have to dodge bullets.
Ooh, and we go to the flop. King 10-7, couple of spades.
He's still got a 19% chance to win. A queen gives him a gut shot straight.
Let's see the turn card.
Pot of over 2 million chips. We get the turn card just like that.
Poker can be so brutal.
Unbelievable. Still one card to go, though, but unfortunately for Ronnie, just chop outs. One chop out, and that's it.
He's getting chopped up, not out.
Right. We go to the river card. It's the 7 of clubs, and that is going to do it. Ronnie is going to go out in 8th place, $23,585. But you know, Kenna, there's nothing you can do about it. He was patient, waited for premium hands, got his money in right, and just like that, the cards didn't cooperate.
That's going to do it for Ronnie. I hate losing with pocket aces, but especially the way that went down.
What do you mean? You lose, you lose. I mean, you know, people got to remember that aces are not invincible. You're going to lose with them 1 out of every 5 times, 20% of the time. You know, it happens. You got to be able to deal with it.
That's why he's the poker analyst.
Well, Kenna, when we started play, Andrew had a huge chip advantage, and he was pretty much running over the table. But now things are starting to even out a little bit.
Of course, some people don't like to be run over, and they fight back.
Every elimination so huge because of the pay jumps here. You know, I mean,
it means a lot.
It really does.
And that really ratchets up the pressure on the players, seeing those big pay jumps.
Steve Jewell with another ace in his hand. It seems like every other hand, if not every hand, this guy's got an ace in his hand.
And it's a marginal ace. You know, it's easier to play ace-king and ace-queen when you get ace-10, ace-9.
It's going to raise to $175,000, but there's something to be said about running well, and he's doing that right now. Now Steve finally going to get involved. He's going to go all in with his pocket queens.
And this is why these medium aces are tough to play, because when you get faced with a re-raise, you're in these tough, decisive spots. Does he call? Does he fold?
And when I said Steve went all in, that's Steve Karp, by the way, called by Steve Jewell, and I think we saw an ace folded already.
Yep. That's going to make Steve J a 3-1 underdog.
We got a couple of Steves. We got Steve K, Steve J. It's a battle of the Steves. One Steve at risk here for his tournament life. That's Steve Karp. And look at this, a terrible flop for him. An ace and 2-7. So
Wow.
Steve Jewell outflops Steve Karp.
Once again, the worst hand. This is the luck factor of the game. Looks like it may, unless Steve catches a queen here, is going to take out the best hand, the best pre-flop hand.
9 of hearts on the turn, so Steve just looking to catch one of the remaining queens, or he will be eliminated. By the way, that Steve Karp will be eliminated. Yes. We go to that river card, and it's the 8 of clubs, so that is going to do it for Steve Karp from Miami, Florida. His friends call him Miami Steve. $28,205 he's going to pay for the wedding that he's got coming up, so congratulations to him.
A little salve in the wound, but when players start with the best hand, they like to finish with it. It's two separate things.
Action continues here from the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. I'm James Larson, joined by Kenneth James in the broadcast booth. Action folded around to Andrew. He's got ace-5.
Another marginal ace.
Blinds are 50,000, 100,000 with a 10K ante. Andrew's going to raise it up to 225K. Over to Steve now on the button. Looks down at Queen 10 of clubs. And he's on the button. Very important in poker,
to have
as most
position.
people know, but to have position.
That's right. Yeah, so meaning last to act.
Now, Steve, I talked about it moments ago. You know, Steve's he's running well at this final table.
He is.
He really is.
And he's also playing well too, though. I think that's the combination. Playing well and running well. You put those two together, you almost become unstoppable.
Jimmy Casement picks up pocket trays in the small. Craig's going to defend with his 5-4 and the flop. 2 tens
Wow.
and a 4, 2 spades.
You said it. You said it, James. He is running well.
It's hard to beat somebody that's catching cards, playing well. When everything's going their way, it really makes it difficult for you, the opponent.
Absolutely. The player is in flow, and you've got to recognize that.
Jimmy checks his 2 pair, 10s and trays. Craig checks his, 10s and 4s. Now Andrew's going to bet with his ace-5. He's going to bet 300,000. Steve's got to love this.
Well, yeah, Andrew is not recognizing the flow here. He continues with this aggressive line when the opponent behind him continues to chip up, continue to play well and run well.
And now Steve's going to raise it up to 800,000. Casement's going to get out of the way, as does Casino.
Now, I would have liked if Steve would have just flatted here. Again, don't do the pushing when the donkey is a pulling. And he's going to let Andrew off the hook here. Andrew folds, and Steve is going to take home the pot.
A pot of over 2 million chips. We'll see if this man from Dyersville, Iowa, can take down his first HPT title when we return.
Welcome back to the HPT main event final table, coming to you this week from Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. We are down to 6 players, but only one of them can be crowned our new champion, so let's get straight into the action.
By the way, Kenneth, that new champion, have you seen that first place money? Almost $212,000. That buys a lot of steak dinners.
And a lot of cheese.
A lot of cheese.
And crackers and good wine.
Really good cheese, really good wine. Action folded around to Steve Jewell, who looks down at Doyle's favorite hand, the 10 deuce of hearts. Blinds, by the way, 50,000, 100,000 with a 10K ante. He's going to fold, as does Jim Casement. Now over to Craig Casino on the button. He's got 2 cards, and he's got the button. He's folding.
Well, he's got his jacket off.
That's true. He's getting the gloves on. The jacket's off. The gloves are on. Chris is going to raise it up to 990,000. He's in the small blind, and now Jorge, he's going to go all in here.
The short stack with the best hand pre-flop.
Yeah, he's got the queen, jack.
That hasn't helped much tonight. It's not the pre-flop. It's the hand at the end that takes home the pot.
And the flop is 10-7-5, so Chris outflops Jorge.
Once again, the worst starting hand coming out smelling like a rose so far.
Turn card is the ace of clubs.
That brings a lot of outs to Jorge, a king, a queen, or a jack. He doubles up and stays in the tournament to To the river we go.
And the river card is the 5 of spades, so that's not the card he was looking for, and it seems like the short stacks are getting killed by Chris tonight. He's picking them off one by one. His latest victim is Jorge, but he'll go home with $33,692 and 5 handshakes.
Well, you know, Jorge went from 19,000 to 33,000 by watching the other short stacks flame out. He climbed the ladder all the way through 662 players. You know what I have to say?
How about hip hip Jorge?
James, come.
All right, we're back here to the action at the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. Jim's going to raise it to $230,000 with his ace-9. Action now over to Chris with ace-8.
Now I know why that comedy career didn't work out
I know,
for you,
that's why I'm
James.
in the booth with you, my friend.
Great to be here. Chris on a tough decision here with ace-8. Makes the correct play. Yeah.
Action over to Andrew now. Andrew's going to make the call with his king deuce of spades.
Andrew's been very, very active on this final table. I like the idea of getting in and mixing it up. I'd like to see a little bit better quality hands to mix it up with. When you go to a fight, you want to have a bat. You know?
He is in the big blind, I see, with a flop of 10-4 deuce, so there's something to be said about defending that BB.
Good point. Yeah, defending from the blinds is important. Overly defending might be a mistake.
And that can be a problem. We do see players over-defend, and
Right.
that costs chips to keep seeing flops.
When you're defending with napkins, they belong at the bottom of a drink, not at a poker table.
Jim's going to bet $330,000. Andrew got a small piece of this. He paired his deuce.
If he's calling with king high preflop, when you flop a pair, it looks like a monster.
Right.
And he's right, actually. He's right.
Turn card now is the 5 of clubs. Action on Andrew.
Jim now gut shot straight and an ace. I think he's going to sense that his opponent has some attachment to this pot, and he wisely checks. Takes the river for free.
And now we go to the river. Yahtzee here pretty much for Andrew as he makes 3 of a kind. Third club comes out on the board. We'll see if he decides to bet this.
Of course he's going to bet it. Andrew, I apologize. When you play this well, you can play any 2 cards. He's going for value here.
Andrew told us he's in for 1 bullet, and he won 725 of those dollars last night in the pits playing blackjack. Gotta love success stories.
It doesn't surprise me.
And now look at this.
Wow.
A raise.
A river bluff here by Jim?
And I think Andrew said, "You got to be kidding me," as
Yeah.
he looks up into the sky. But how does he muck this? Can he muck this?
No way. No way. He's not mucking. He's going to pay off here.
He's going to
Yep.
make the call. And Jim's going to say, "Good call, my friend." And that's going to be a pot. Over 3 million chips in that pot. Good call there by Andrew.
Knowing when to bluff and when not to bluff, key to winning. And he set his bluff up too late. If you're going to bluff, bluff early.
And I think Andrew there, I think he had a pretty good read on his opponent. He didn't like that raise that Jim put in there, but I think he pretty much had him read the whole way down.
Not only did he have the read, though, James, he had the hand to back it.
Right, he had the hand, exactly. That helps, too. I mean, he had 3 of a kind. That
Right.
makes it a whole lot easier. And Craig raises to 450, a re-raise with the ace-queen by Chris. Now over to Mr. Jewell.
I like this. I like the 3-betting, fighting for the lead here with ace-queen.
Steve Jewell with ace-4, just $375 invested in this event. He's going to fold. Now over to Jim Casement. Looks down at ace-10. Another decent hand.
It's marginal, though, and facing a call and a raise, this should shrink this hand up.
He's in the big blind. He's in the big blind. I'm not
You know
sure
what?
I like the all-in.
I think he's on tilt from the last hand, from making
Steaming.
that bluff.
Yeah, a little
he's
bit of
steaming.
steam, yeah.
Uh-huh.
10-4, Jim, ace of clubs.
They're going to flip over the cards, and Jimmy's going to see the bad news.
Not gonna. He's got a 25% chance to win here. He's gonna need Lady Luck on his side.
Yeah, things not looking good here for Jim as he stands up. I wonder what he's listening to in there. You think it's maybe some Skid Row, Beatles, L.A. Guns? Flop is King, Queen, 7.
Oh, it's getting worse. Down to 18% chance. He needs a jack to make a straight.
A pot of almost 2.5 million chips. We go to the turn card.
Have the straight draw.
And the turn card is the Jack of Hearts.
My.
Just like that.
Oh, poker could be so cruel.
Jimmy Casement. Now he's up to 93% because Chris can still chop, but it's a Jack of Diamonds on the river.
Look at the smile on his face.
Very happy. Jim Casement right back into this thing. He's going to sit down. He's got some chips to play. And when we come back, we'll have more exciting final table action. You're watching the HPT. We're back at the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago, where the action is fast and furious at this HPT final table.
The chip count, Steve Jewell up on top with almost 7 million, and Craig Casino has dropped down to 1.5 million, just under 10 big blinds. Just over 10 big blinds, actually.
Yeah, I like it how you said it. Yeah, just over, whatever. Blinds are 50,000, 100,000.
Well, it's important.
Because
because the blinds put the pressure on the size of your stack. And so once you're over like 30 big blinds in relation, your chip stack in relation to the big blinds, it takes some of the pressure of playing, off of you, and you can loosen up your play and play a lot more hands.
Action on Jim Casement here on the button, recently doubled up. He's going to raise it 230,000 with his pocket tens, and now Craig Casino in the small blind is going to shove all in.
And see, this is a factor. This is a factor of being on the short stack. He doesn't have the luxury of waiting for a really great hand and has to put all his chips in with Queen 9.
Chris gets out of the way. Jimmy's going to make the call. He's in the lead here. Pocket 10's going up against the Queen 9, and the flop is King Jack 9. Now, we've seen some crazy things at this table.
Very crazy. Interesting flop. Craig is going to need a 9 or one of the two remaining 10s to stay in this tournament. 17% chance.
We've seen a lot of voodoo tonight. We'll see if that continues. It's the tray of clubs now on the turn, so Jim's still in good shape. Craig Casino hoping to keep his tournament hopes alive and win his third HPT title.
Here
Pot
it
of over
is.
3 million chips. We go to the river card. I don't know who's more nervous. And it's the 6 of clubs. And that is going to do it for Craig the Legend Casino. Another cash for him, our all-time money leader here on the HPT. He just won an event at Soaring Eagle. So you know what? I'm not going to feel too bad for him.
No.
And he's going home with $43,993.
Great performance by Craig Casino. He went out there, he fought for the lead, he fought for the title, and sometimes when you fight, you get beat.
It's James Larson and Ken James here on the HPT. And look at this. Chris picks up pocket kings. Wisely, he's going to raise to $225,000.
The Cowboys. Andrew now with 2 7s. Does he 3-bet, or does he just flat call here with his 7s? He elects to call and set mine, as we call it, looking for a 7 to make trip 7s, and felt his opponent.
Now over to Steve Jewell. Cooled off a little bit. We saw him running red hot at the start of the program. Now his cards are starting to normal up a little bit. He's going to fold. And now Jimmy Casement.
Normal up a little bit. Is that a phrase?
I think
Normal
it is. I just came up with it. Jimmy's going to defend here in the BB with his tray dooce of hearts and the flop. Oh
there
boy.
it is.
10,
Oh, my God.
7, 4.
This
A
is-
set for Andrew.
This is great because it's hidden, His opponent, who's got an overpair with 2 kings, is never going to suspect a set here. And I expect a very large pot to develop here. And the balance of the tournament could swing on this one hand.
Jimmy checks. Now Chris is going to make a bet. Chris has got to feel pretty good about this bet. He's got to feel like he's in the lead right now.
Absolutely. Now, Andrew just flat calling
And I
here.
love that. I love that.
Right, yeah, it's a good strategy play, but it's not his norm. His norm is being
Right.
very aggressive, so this should send alarm bells in Chris's hand.
It's a dry board, though. 10-7-4 rainbow. We go to the turn now. Ooh. That's the ace of clubs. That could slow Chris down a little bit.
Absolutely. It may save him. He thinks it's a bad card. It's actually the card that might save him from losing too many chips in this pot.
Now, Andrew's probably thinking, this is a good card for me, hoping that his opponent has an ace, but in reality, his opponent has pocket kings.
We're really talking about the mental game, what goes on in the minds of these players here.
The bet is $525,000. Chris is going to make the call. It's hard to get away from pocket kings. It really is.
Well, you attach so much value to your hand, you don't want to lose, and especially as the pot grows. It makes it even tougher to lay them down, but he should be able to get away from this hand here if Andrew bets, and I expect him to.
Third club comes on board, the deuce of clubs. Andrew's going to bet. It looks like $825,000.
dig down deep, have the discipline, get away from this hand.
But it's a pot, as you see, of over 3.4.
Right, so
you
the
gotta
value.
do the value there. And he fell in love with it. And I think he knew as he was putting the chips in,
right,
he wasn't going to win the hand. But sometimes you just have to do that.
Well, you don't have
but
to,
you do
James.
it. You don't have to.
That's what makes the winner. Knowing when you're beat and then following it up with a fold rather than having to see your opponent's hand.
My name's Andrew Mills. I'm originally from White Lake, Michigan, and I deal poker at a casino. I wanted to play a different tournament, which was a lot less, and I decided I was either going to sell half of myself or I would go play some blackjack and see how I could do, and I decided to do that, and it worked out well. Once I won, I felt really good, obviously, because I'm winning. So I decided to play. When I played the tournament, I was in a good mindset, I feel like, and it went well from there.
Just 25 miles from downtown Chicago, we're broadcasting here at the beautiful Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. And Kenna, just 4 players remain.
Yep, beautiful city, great casino, a lot of cash still on the line to be played for.
And you were born in Chicago. Does that make you are you White Sox or Cubs?
I'm a Cubby, man.
Of course.
Born from the north side. Now, 10-8 here. Andrew opens up now with four-handed. You know, you're going to want to increase a lot of the hands you're going to play, but on down to 10-8, it might be a little wide. And this is why, because you run into a premium hand like this ace-king.
Steve heating up again here at this final table. Looks down at ace-king.
Once again with the best hand and position on Andrew. He's a thorn in his side, James.
And it's been a good week for Steve. He won first place in event number 4, one of our side events. So he's pretty much on a free roll. And I told you, he was into this thing for just $375. He's going to raise it up to $700,000 with his ace-king.
Andrew should easily get away from this. Having a couple of napkins out of position, facing a raise. This should be but he gets, he gets attached.
What do you do when a guy stares you down like that?
Stare right back.
That's all you really can do.
Well, you could let it intimidate you and affect your play. I don't see that from Andrew. He's definitely not intimidated. If anything, he's being overly aggressive.
And now Steve is all in. And look at Andrew. He's thinking, I just put a ton of chips in the middle, and I'm never going to get him back on this particular hand.
Now, an easy fold here. He's just actually lamenting his previous 3-bet.
Andrew's going to fold. Steve's going to take down this pot. Steve told us just $7,200 in career earnings. Now, experience-wise, watching these players, do you think Steve Jewell, do you think he can take this thing down? Because he's still a long ways to go.
Yes, but winning begets winning. And as you said, look at how he's trending. Look at how the cards are going. He's not only getting lucky and hitting things, he's playing well. He's making the right moves. And those two combinations, playing well, running well, goes a long way to winning.
And now this time Andrew picks up ace-king. He's going to raise it up to $250,000. Steve, of course, has an ace in his hand. Ace-5, ace-5 of clubs. This could get Steve into a little bit of trouble.
It could if he doesn't have the discipline to fold out of position. But he has been very disciplined so far. Selecting the hands to play in position. Now he's out of position.
Now, keep in mind, 4th place money, just over $60,000. Wow. 3rd place money, almost $87,000. And a re-raise to $675,000. Casement gets out of the way. Action back to Andrew.
You make a very good point, James. A lot of money in the pay jumps now. So these decisions become increasingly more important. Now, Andrew re-raising to is that $1 million?
Yeah, just over $1 million.
$1 million chips.
I like it. Now, Steve, can Steve make this call?
He does. Now the script has flipped. Steve now is losing discipline, calling with an inferior hand out of position.
But is he kind of riding the heater? Can you ride that heater? By the way, flop queen 10-4, couple of hearts. Can you ride that luck?
ride the wave?
Of course you can. Yeah, I mean, Doyle Brunson always said he always played the next hand after he won the previous one, and maybe Steve has read that book and is following suit, but it's not going to help him here.
Both players check. We go to the turn card now. It's the Tray of Hearts. So
interesting.
Interesting for Steve's hand here.
Steve should now sense the weakness in an opponent, take initiative, and lead out. If you're going to play a hand like this, you got to play it strong.
And Steve's going to check. Pot of almost 2.3 million chips.
Looks like Andrew is going to make a bet here. Now, remember, we can see the cards. They can't. He's betting with no pair on a 3 flushing board.
Right.
And
look at this. A raise all in.
Oh, man, this is courage right here.
Any doubt I had about this quote-unquote amateur taking this thing down?
Look at this. Now he's winning with the worst hand. He's got talent and he's got skill. I like this kid.
And he's from Dyersville, Iowa. He's from the field of dreams, ladies and gentlemen. If you build it, they will come.
Well, Andrew started the night running the table. By the end of it, he wanted to crawl underneath it.
I don't blame him. He keeps running into the wall of Steve, who's on his left, and playing him well.
That's all the time we have on this week's episode. Next week, be sure to join us. Our final 4 will scrape and claw their way to the title. Who's it going to be? They'll go home with the bracelet, the championship, and most importantly, just over $211,000. For Ken and James, I'm James Larson, and we'll see you next time right here on the HPT.